Welcome back to the Nurturers Pod. We got a very special guest with us this week. We got Johnny Brask,
Yep.
co-founder of SprintPage.io. Super happy to have you here, man. How's it going?
Good, brother. Yeah, I'm pumped to finally make it happen. I know we tried to get on like the last week or so, but super pumped to be here.
It's all good. Life happens, man, for sure. And you were just telling me
Yeah.
you're out in Costa Rica. Been there for about a month and a week now.
Yep.
It's treating you well.
Yeah, man. It's nice to have sun. I was coming down from Seattle, so it was like 5 months no sun to every day sunny and 95. So it's been
Now
nice,
that,
and I'm like used to
so,
it now too. I'm a Minnesota guy, so a lot of
yeah.
cold, a lot of rain, a lot of snow, and now it's like 95 and sunny every day. And my brother just came down this last weekend, and I feel like I'm like used to the heat, which is sweet.
No, that's amazing, man. What kind of inspired the move? Just wanted to change the scenery?
Yeah, I have a half Ironman in about a month, and like I said, I was like in Seattle and had to train for that, and so I still have my place in Seattle through the end of June, so I'll be going back there after the race. But
Nice.
yeah, I've been training outside and working, so knew a guy who lived down in Tamarindo, Costa Rica, where I'm at. He kind of put me on to where to go, and found an Airbnb and booked her.
Dude, that sounds amazing. Sounds like you're living the life out there. That's super fun, man. Good for you.
Yeah.
But yeah, tell me a little bit more about Sprint Page, how things are going there. Yeah, just give it a little intro.
Yeah, so SprintPage, we're a marketing agency paired with sales development. So my partner Jack Haggerty does a lot of web design, builds marketing, sales funnels, and then my background is in sales development. So we're kind of like a marketing and sales development fully aligned agency, and we work with B2B startups. Things are going really well. We've been going for about 6 months. I left Snowflake in January. I was doing Sprint Page on the side at first, starting really in like December. So we've been going about almost 2 full quarters, and yeah, it's been awesome, man. Um, but yeah,
No, it sounds like it, man. So I've gone down that path as well, STR BDR route. So definitely know kind of like what that process looks like on your end. But no, it's super cool. I mean, I love the idea. When I was taking a look at the landing page and stuff, it looks incredible. It makes a lot of sense, I'm sure, for a lot of these businesses. So, no, man, good for you. I think it's super awesome
appreciate
that
that.
you're able to like break off and create this own business for yourself, man. So, super cool. And I guess tell me a little bit more about how you got into the SDR world. Was it after college you were able to line up a gig with your first company? Like, tell me a little bit more about that process.
Yeah, I think I kind of fell into it.
Yeah,
Growing up, was always told like I come from a full family of salespeople. My dad, my mom, both my older brothers, and like cousins, aunts, uncles, whatever. Most people are in sales. Growing up, always was told as a kid like you're gonna be a salesman, you're gonna be a great salesman. Just because I was always like getting away with things and very
yeah,
mischievous, and love to talk to people, love to like always run around and meet new people. Asked a ton of questions. I was the kid that like sat in the back seat and just like peppered my parents with questions.
yeah.
So I'd been hearing that a lot, and then getting into college, I started studying economics. My freshman and then the first half of my sophomore year, got a sales internship after my freshman year with an e-commerce startup.
Nice.
It was like an in-person field sales internship. Loved it. Like really loved the like relationship aspect of selling and like meeting people and like growing a brand. It was really cool. I got to kind of see like grassroots, like what it really was. And then my first semester of my sophomore year, I was still an economics major, and I literally couldn't pass calculus, so I couldn't continue economics. And then the day that I dropped calculus was also the same day that because I had been applying to a few internships, some in like sales, account management, and then some at like banks for like, I was looking at like wealth management or like investment banking, like finance, which is just not my route at all. I was like trying to
Yeah.
force it. Like every college kid's like, how can I make money? And it's like everyone thinks like finance or banking or
Right.
whatever. So I kind of bought into that for a little bit, like maybe for like 8 months. And then I got the same day I dropped calculus. I heard back from the first startup that I actually worked for 2.5 years in college, which was Sezzle, as like a merchant success intern, which is their account management team. And then after like 3 months there, my boss referred me to their sales team, and I became a sales development intern where I was for like 2 years. Then I did a quarter full-time with them. For 1 quarter after college, I graduated University of Minnesota a semester early. So I started working for Sezzle as an SDR for a quarter, and then I moved out to Montana. Was like working remote out there, and then found and networked my way into Snowflake. Started working there, worked there for like 8 months. Got promoted after I think 7 months at Snowflake, and then did like 1 month, 1 more month, and then I started Sprint Page with Jack.
Nice, man. No, that
Yeah.
sounds. It's always so interesting to me to hear everyone's journey. I think, yeah, a lot of people, at least that I've talked to, that kind of fall into like this SDR, BDR role, and gone the tech sales route. Like, it's not always on purpose. Like a lot of people fall into it just because it's a good opportunity, right? It's a good opportunity to go and make money, and so. I just find it super interesting to see kind of what that path looks like for everyone, and it sounds like it's kind of something similar for you, which is super cool. So, no, that's awesome. But I wanted to hear a little bit more about, because you said you started Sprint Page while you were still at Snowflake. I wanted to hear a little bit more about that transition, where the idea came from, and how you were able to transition this into your full-time gig.
Yeah, it's actually a very, very interesting story. So it actually goes all the way back to when I was at Sezzle. So that December, after I graduated from University of Minnesota, I went to Bozeman with some buddies, and then I moved to Idaho, and then from Idaho I went to Northwest Montana, lived in Whitefish for a little bit, for like a few months, where I was working remote. And one day I was working in a coffee shop, pitching Sezzle on like an intro discovery call. And a guy who was Jack approached me like in like February, and he's like, dude, like, he's like, what do you do? And I'm like,
Yeah.
I sell tech, I sell SaaS. Told him what I do, kind of showed him like a little bit of the prospecting that I do, the tools that I use. He's a freelancer, web designer, marketing guy who works with a ton of B2B startups. Kind of told me what he did. Mm-hmm. We exchanged information, told me that he needed help with like selling, needed help doing like prospecting and all that stuff, needed help with sales calls, etc. So we stayed in touch. We're kind of in that same corner of Twitter that you also find yourself in, funny enough. And so we stayed in touch via Twitter, and then I hit him up like in October of 2022, and kind of asked him what he was doing, and he's like, had this idea for a web design agency. Told him like, and I was still at Snowflake at this point, told him I'd help him with sales, doing sales calls. So I just started hopping on sales calls with him, helping him with like that cycle, just on the side, like while I was at Snowflake. And then we had like a few calls where guys were like looking for a marketing and a sales agency. They wanted to, get the product out there, but they also needed help with like cold email, cold call. So exactly what I was doing for Jack. So we just got up. There was one call where we just got off, and we still use Discord. Like we literally, all of our communication is in Discord, which is hilarious. But
It's amazing.
So I just I just messaged Jack and was like, yo, why don't we just like combine our offers? And then he's like, all right. And then we hopped in voice channel, and like Jack went onto the Sprint Page website and just recrafted the offer. And I'm pretty sure like 2 weeks later we signed our first client. And then a month later, so a week later I put my 2 weeks in at Snowflake, because I wasn't gonna like take a paycheck until I was done at Snowflake, just because like that's contractual stuff.
Yeah.
And so we closed the client. I had like a few talks like with mentors and stuff. And they said, wait it out, stay at Snowflake, do this on the side, like work with this client on the side, like treat Snowflake as like your largest retaining client. But I just knew that wasn't going to work. So I just like talked to my manager. He understood. I did it tried to do it very gracefully. And then like 3 weeks later, so like first week of January, I was out of Snowflake. But yeah, man, it was pretty cool journey. But yeah, it honestly started like a year before, like when I met Jack, and then we just stayed in touch. I always had this idea of like SDR as a service, right? Like being an SDR,
Yeah.
as you know, you get a ton of recruiters hitting you up all the time saying like, come join our startup, come join our startup. All these startups need sales development. They need help with like cold email, cold calling. So the
Hmm.
idea was just like, I can help as many of these startups as I can at scale. And now we're like really focused on building systems to like continue to like scale Sprint Page and our client base and our book of business. But we're doing it like trying to do it as smart as we can. But yeah, that's a little bit of the backstory.
Dude, no, that's awesome. Honestly, that makes a ton of sense because, like you said, yeah, recruiters are hitting me up. I'm sure they're hitting everyone else up as well, and so it makes sense to kind of just turn that into the actual service. So no, dude, I respect it. I think it's awesome what you're doing for sure. It's super
Appreciate
cool.
that. Thank you.
But yeah, man, I guess diving a little bit more into the episode and getting down to it. So obviously, getting a little bit more of your background. I know you said you came from a sales background, your friends, your family, everyone kind of did sales. You knew growing up that you were going to do sales, but during high school, like I know that you mentioned you were the class clown. Elaborate a little bit more on that. Tell me more about yourself back in high school, the good old high school days.
Yeah, I think that goes back all the way to like elementary school into high school. Like in elementary school, I had like a special rule with like our principals and teachers. Like if I got sent to the office twice, I would get sent home. I had like because I love talking to people. I've been told I was growing up, I was constantly told like, I have no filter. I would like blurt things out. I didn't really think much. I would just kind of say a lot. And I've always loved to have fun and like communicate with people and talk to people. And naturally for me, like school never, I feel like it's kind of very like cliche to say, but I never really fit into that mold of like sitting in a classroom and going from class to class to class. Yeah, I kind of just like got through it by trying to like have fun in class, which led me to getting in a little bit of trouble, like nothing serious, but
Yeah.
like disturbing class, I guess. But funny enough, like I still keep in touch with a lot of my teachers, and I'm very thankful for my teachers, the ones that I had, even the ones that sent me out into the hallway and stuff like that. But yeah, man, I think I was just a less evolved version of like what I am now, and learned to kind of like channel a lot of the energy that I do have. Maybe I lacked a little bit of respect in high school, and I don't know. I think it's funny to like think back because I feel like I'm still like kind of the same person.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I was just a goof, man.
Yeah, no, dude, I totally can relate to that. It's crazy how time just flies by.
Yeah.
Honestly, I still feel like I'm in high school, even though it's been quite a bit of time since I graduated and stuff. And no, I think it's super interesting. Just the more people that I talk to, I think a lot of people like going through high school, they have that kind of attitude where it's like no. They're socialize, have fun, and it ends up working out just because of that aspect, where you're able to network and connect with people, even though when you're younger you don't really realize that that's what you're doing. But it ends up helping you in the long run, just building that network within business and stuff. No, that's super cool, man. And I know you also mentioned that friends was probably like the most important thing to you in high school, which I think relates back to what we were just saying, obviously. Just creating those relationships and being able to nurture those. And so, yeah, I guess for you, did you play sports in high school or anything?
I did. Yeah, I played hockey. I played lacrosse.
Oh, nice, man. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I think, just like building those different friendships and those different groups is super important. Like I was saying, that it's able to take you a lot further in life once you're able to develop those skills and do exactly what you were saying. So, no, that's awesome, man. And you kind of mentioned it. I mean, I know that you had like the sales background, you had your friends, your family, that were all in sales, but you thought that you were possibly going to be an engineer. Tell me a bit more about that. Was that more like just your own thoughts, or was that? I mean, obviously, it wasn't really like anyone else, I guess, if you had a majority of the people telling you you're going to be doing sales. So tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, that goes way back. We had so at the high school that I did go to, we had like an engineering class, and I mean, we just played Legos. Like we literally just like built Legos. So I
Yeah.
thought like I didn't like think like that's what engineering was, but I really enjoyed the engineering class because if we just built cars and put
Mm.
motors in them with Legos, and I loved it. And it was like an open like it was like an open forum classroom. Like there were like standing desks, but like people walked around and like building
Nice.
stations and stuff. So it was like super hands on, super collaborative. So like I would go in there and I'd be like active the whole time, right? Like you're not sitting in a class. And so I would like tell my mom, I was like, like I really like this engineering class. And then my mom like heard that and was like, oh, engineer, like that. I want my son to be an engineer. So she would always like tell everyone that I'm like like love engineering, and then it just like kind of like stuck with me. And then I was like, oh yeah, like I'm gonna. So I like looked at engineering colleges and stuff. Funny story about that. I didn't get the greatest score in the ACT, but my mom and I went to we went to go visit the engineering school at the University of Minnesota. Like while all this was happening, while I was like in this phase of engineering,
Gotcha. Yeah.
and the tour guide told the whole group the average ACT score for acceptance to get into the engineering school was a 34, and the ACT's out of a 36. And
Right.
I just looked at my mom, and we stood up and we left. We were there for like we were there for 10 minutes, and then that's kind of the day that my engineering dreams died. But
Yeah.
yeah, when I was young, I yeah, for sure, like I had like a thought like, oh, it'd be cool to be an engineer. And I still love the act, like looking at, I love watching YouTube videos of like things being built, like homes. And my dad and I will watch those like videos of like those guys in Thailand like building homes over the course of like 12 hours.
Hmm.
I think that kind of stuff's so cool. Like I love, very intrigued and interested by that, and hopefully like in my later life like can do something, within that realm. But like you said about falling into sales, I just kind of always knew it was there. And I definitely have a lot of passions. I think sales is the way that I've learned to monetize my skills the best. Yeah, but that's funny. Yeah, I definitely used to think engineering was my path.
No, dude, I think no, it's super funny to hear that, obviously, and I think at the same time, dude, like crafting offers and being strategic with sales. I mean, I don't know a ton about engineering, but almost engineering the offers and whatnot, like it's kind of relatable, right? And so. I guess you could consider yourself a sales engineer,
Yeah,
or
it's a good
something
way.
like that.
It's a good
But
way of putting it. Yeah, for sure. Especially in the agency space. I mean,
oh
you're
yeah,
always kind of attending to client needs and then refining your offer. And it feels like we're always kind of refining like our offer and what we're offering for clients and whatnot. So it's definitely
yeah.
a good way of putting it.
Sure, you have to pivot and adapt to the environment, and your clients need a ton. So, um, yeah, like I said, not an expert on engineering at all, but I'm sure it's pretty relatable in that aspect, which is still fun, and still you're able to kind of fulfill that itch that you had from like a young age. So, no, that's dope, man.
Right.
Um, but cool, man. So yeah, I know that you went to college. Was that kind of like always an expectation as well, from your parents, or was that something that you decided like that you wanted to do specifically?
Yeah, I mean, dude, my parents were excellent parents. They were definitely more hands off to where if I would have told them I didn't want to go to college, they probably would have, been like, that's okay, but wanted me to have like a path. But I think naturally it's just like, when you're young, growing up in schooling and all that, yeah, like I just knew I was going to go to college. Um, and yeah, I applied to uh, like 5 different schools. I did not think I was going to go to the University of Minnesota. It was kind of like a backup school for me. And then I think like a week before decision day, or like a month, it wasn't super like long before decision day, that I finally just decided it made the most sense to stay home, study economics, and in-state tuition was pretty cheap, so
Gotcha.
yeah.
No, that makes sense. The only reason I ask is I feel like, there's definitely that expectation, I think, just from everyone, whether it's from your parents or friends. It's like just the typical path for anyone coming out of high school. But yeah, I don't know, just like a personal opinion on it, I definitely think it's can be super helpful, right? You're able to learn a ton of valuable skills, especially if you want to go be a lawyer, a doctor, or a teacher even, and have that specific degree. But I don't know, just from personal experience, I feel like being hands-on and getting those skills through experience a lot of times can be way more beneficial. For example, with your agency, I'm sure you've learned a lot of skills just from being in the process of building out your offers and dealing with clients than you would be from, per se, a class where they're teaching about the building a business and doing X, Y, Z, right? Just kind of wanted to hear your thoughts on that, on I guess experience in a certain space versus whether it's a class or a course.
Yeah, I think I don't know if I'd call it the unfortunate truth, but it's just, I feel like college is more of a social lever than anything else, right? Like college undoubtedly is how I found my way to the startup that I started at when I was 19. Did I need college and what I learned in college to get where I am today? No, like absolutely not, right? Like my education, I studied economics, but I honestly believe that you'll learn more, especially with a brain like mine that doesn't really thrive in a classroom and getting stuff like pushed at you. It's more so like I love to read books that I'm interested in. I'll read 10 different books at once, but I'll still like retain some knowledge.
Yeah.
I really was interested in like economics, but I really feel like when I actually bought a book about econ on my own and like read that, I learned more. And especially with sales, man, because I left econ and I went into like the sales major, which I'm not going to bash anything or anyone, but it's like you can kind of do the math on a college sales major it's kind of a joke. And I learned, dude, when I started as like a business development intern at Sezzle, like that first month, like I felt like I was learning so much. And it was my first time like cold calling and cold emailing, and they gave me free reign to write my own emails and do my own calling, and it was like a still startup, so I had a ton of freedom, ton of creative freedom, and I just learned a ton. I'm definitely the type that learns like trial by fire. So just like and like when I enjoy something and like selling a cool product, seeing what works, seeing what sticks, was really fun to me, and I'm honestly just like been going at it ever since, almost like 4 years, 3.5 years now. So.
Nice.
But yeah, I think the whole college thing it's an interesting thing to look at for sure. Like you don't need it, right? Like especially if you play your cards right and you want to get into sales or you want to get into marketing, like go work for a marketer for free. Go work for an agency. Go offer to sell someone something, or sell for a company for like a commission only retainer or something like that. Like that's how you're going to learn sales like really quick. Don't go to college to learn sales. I would argue don't even go to college to learn marketing. But I think the truth about like college is like it's more of like a social lever. It's really easy to get into networks. It's but then again, like Twitter, LinkedIn, like if you want, like there's no college kids I don't see a lot of like 18, 20, 21-year-olds like putting content out there like saying like, hey, I want to get into sales, I want to get into marketing. Maybe I'm just not seeing it, but that's better. To me, that's better than going to college and getting like just doing like an apprenticeship. Like, I don't know. I think that's definitely a good route.
Yeah, for sure. That's actually super interesting because, yeah, dude, I don't see a ton of that either. That would be super interesting, though, like if it was something, I don't know, if there was like a specific LinkedIn networking class or whatever, which I don't know, maybe there's some colleges that have that. Maybe they're, I don't know, I feel like a majority probably don't. But like, yeah, that's such a valuable skill to just to be able to build your own brand and network and reach out to people in the right way, so you're able to create that relationship and create those types of opportunities for you. So, no, I think that's super interesting what you said for sure. But yeah, man, I mean, just going back on your experience, I mean, obviously, um, going the startup route, being able to break off and build your own agency, being kind of the class clown that you were all growing up and through high school, like, is there any piece of advice you would give yourself, or is there anything that you would change about your experience and path that you've taken?
I wouldn't say I would change anything, but I think advice would be when I was younger, still am, but like when I was younger, I was exceptionally hard on myself. I definitely had like an outward facing like class clown vibe and like funny guy, whatever. But if I would like mess up or do something, like I was very internally like hard on myself. And I think it's just like accepting the fact that we're fallible humans and that we mess up, and that's the only way to learn. And the best thing I think I've learned over the last few years is like the only way to learn, the only way to grow is to put yourself in positions where you're going to fail. And like I hated failing or falling short of something, but as everybody kind of comes to find out, we will constantly fall short. So I think, yeah, have a little more love, have a little more grace for myself growing up. But, like I said, no regrets. Everything kind of works out how it's supposed to, I believe so.
Absolutely. No, I agree. I think that's one of the coolest parts, kind of like I mentioned at the beginning, is just everyone has their own path. And even though you might go and try something and fail at it, and you end up doing or trying out another thing, like you never really know what you love and what you're passionate about until you're willing to fail and make those mistakes and take those risks. So no, man, I think it's super cool. And I guess looking more into Sprint Page, like what have been some of the biggest obstacles for you that you've had to overcome to get this agency off the ground and get it where it is today?
Man, I feel like it's a new obstacle. Like constantly, there's like just new hurdles. I think the one thing that's super interesting about the agency model is scaling it and scaling the offer. Obviously as like an SDR, it's like I'm basically outsourcing my sales development skills, right? And now we just hired another SDR who's helping me with my client work and fulfillment, and I can still do all the client work and manage all the inbound flow and like we do inbound and outbound for our clients, right? So everything that comes through the website will qualify, set up as a demo, and then we run outbound sequences too. We're able to build our own lists, etc. But having another guy to help me with cold calling and just sending emails and prospecting and all that stuff, I interviewed a few guys. He was actually helping a kid. He just graduated from Carlson, University of Minnesota, but I was helping him like find SDR jobs. I was like helping him network, trying to help him get interviews at like Snowflake and CrowdStrike, whatever. And he was just asking me about what I'm doing, and then I just kind of was like, you want to come work with me? And he's been with me now for like a month, and he's just killing it, man. And so that's the first hire, first person I've personally ever hired, and yeah, it's really cool. So like, it was a constant thought for months was when we sign more clients, like how are we going to fulfill? And now it's just hiring the right people, hire people that are good at what you need them to be good at, and then it's just like you continue to sell and continue to our priorities are obviously client value, like continue to prove and show clients value and ROI, and then then we grow Sprint Page. But
Love it.
that's definitely been probably an obstacle that's been the most fun to navigate.
Cool, man.
Most
I love
fulfilling
it.
for sure.
And last question for me. Let's say you're someone who's working a 9 to 5, you're an SDR, BDR, AE, whoever, and you're wanting to break off and start. You want to do your own thing. Maybe you have a side hustle going, maybe you don't. What was kind of that the turning point for you? And I think I kind of know you signed your first client, but like mentally, what was that switch that made you say no? Like, this is what I want to do. It makes sense. I'm gonna do this thing. Yeah, just tell me a little bit more about that process, I guess, mentally for you.
Yeah, I would say, the advice that I would give to someone in a 9 to 5 that's looking to break out, and I mean, as an SDR, like, you're a pirate on a pirate ship, right? Like, you have a very sharp skill, which is sales and selling and breaking down doors that are closed and getting like into doors. So if you are, interested in doing something for yourself, you're in a good place because you have a very defined skill that is very easy to prove ROI for prospective clients, which could be in meeting setting or it could be in full cycle sales. But I think a great place to start, specifically for marketers or SDRs, what have you, is taking that skill and kind of freelancing it and doing it for smaller startups, doing it for, seed companies, Series A startups that just need help with cold email and cold calling. Buy a tool like Apollo that helps you scrape lists and just do email sequencing, get a domain from a client, and just start cold emailing and cold calling for them. And if you're seeing a lot of no's, do it for free and say, if I can get you 5 SQL meetings this quarter, you pay me $500 at each meeting, and then you just give yourself high potential to earn. But that's a great place to get started. And like I said, like, if you have that success or that background and skill of sales, like, it's not, obviously it's not easy to get started in this kind of game, but you're a lot of steps ahead of other people, because at any stage in entrepreneurship, I believe, or like building a business, like, most people will say this, like, and when I say most people, I mean Naval, because I really just read Naval, and he's the GOAT in my opinion. But sales is like the most important, one of the most important things that you need. So being able to learn that early in a career, like, there's a lot of college kids who want to get into venture capital, or they want to get into finance or banking. I would argue that, like, learning sales is like the best foundation you can give yourself for getting into business. And then you can break into whatever you want, right? Like, working at a startup and learning to sell, learning how a product progresses, and like having to know where it's going to be in a quarter and 2 quarters, 3 quarters from now, and how that's going to change the selling and marketing of it all. And I'm going to try not to ramble, but I think with like my advice to a BDR is, you're in a very unique position to be an entrepreneur, because you have a very sharp skill set. And the more sharp your skill set, the easier it is, I believe, to like start an agency and have a very specific problem/offer that plugs into businesses directly, right? That's how you see a lot of SaaS products like do really well. It's very sharp, very specific, and they know exactly who to reach out to. And then on the mental side, you see a lot of SDRs quit 6 to 8 months in and say, sales isn't for me. Sales isn't for me. That's usually because they hit that. And I don't know if you've seen this, Zach, but it is so common, man. Like 2 quarters in, 6 to 8 months, every SDR has that thought of like leaving. I swear, it's like that exact time. It's like they're like, well, I don't know if I'm going to get the AE role. I don't know if I'm going to stick it out. Like, I haven't slept. Like, I'm so stressed out all the time. Like, I'm not even working that many hours, but I just think about having to make 100 cold calls tomorrow. And, like, this is like a lot easier said than done, right? But this is a good rule of thumb for anything, which is just detaching from things that you cannot control, which is the outcome of every cold call, the outcome of every email. And you hear that from every sales guru. But, like, detaching from outcomes that, all we can control is our outputs. So I think from a mental standpoint, like, it's very freeing to just be like, hey, I'm going to do my absolute best today. But if I don't book any meetings, if I don't sell anything, if I don't get a lot of signups on the website today, I'm not going to let my mental get sucked into that, right? So
Yeah.
I think detachment's huge in business and sales and in life in general, I think.
Yeah, no, for sure, man. I think you hit it right on the head. Um, Sales, dude, is so applicable to so many different aspects of business. So yeah, whether you want to do sales or even if you want to be a doctor or a lawyer, or you want to get into finance, those skills and the relationship building type of skills that you learn from going through a sales process, they can be applied in, I would argue, almost any other role within business. So. No, dude, I love it, and I just appreciate you hopping on, sharing all your insight, your story, man. It's been great to get to know you a little bit better. And if people want to give you a follow, where can they find you at?
I'm on LinkedIn, Johnny Brask, and then I'm on Twitter, and I might be changing my username soon, but my
Okay.
username is deskjockey underscore OOO. So yeah, I really just use LinkedIn and Twitter, and I think that's how we got connected. So shout out to
Yes, sir.
it was one of the two, but yeah, I appreciate you having me on, man. This is a blast, and yeah, I hope we can do this again sometime.
Absolutely, man. No, it's been a pleasure. And we'll keep in touch. Maybe I'll come meet you out there in Costa Rica. Who knows?
Absolutely, bro, for sure.
Let's go. Okay, man. Have a good one.
Thanks, brother.